Okay, do-it-yourself pitfall number 3 is not saying everything that you need to say in your documents. In other words, not being specific and filling out the information completely. So when you fill out your estate planning documents, your will, your powers of attorney, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, you want to make sure that you use legal names. And I know that this sounds commonsensical, but for example, you're not going to want to say, Susie if her name is Suzanne. You want to fill out the full first name, middle name, and at least middle initial and last name, and do the full legal name for everyone who is going to inherit from you. What often people don't think through, let's say you fill out your will completely and it says that your estate is going to go to these 3 children, 1, 2, 3, your 3 kids, and you fill out their names completely. Then what's the next step? What you need to think through is, well, what happens if one or more of those 3 children don't survive me? Where should their share go? So your online form may give you guidance. I hope it does. But let me explain to you what the options typically are that we see. Typically, if, for example, you say it goes to my 3 kids and your daughter doesn't survive, oftentimes people want the daughter's 1/3 share to go down to her children, to your grandchildren. And here in the state of Washington, we call that per stirpies. The other very common option that we see, though not as often, is that if the daughter doesn't survive, then her 1/3 share doesn't go down, but it gets divided between her 2 surviving siblings. So now instead of them each getting 1/3, they each get 50%. So if you're doing your forms yourself, really give some thought to, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Where do I want to see my assets go? There should be forms and guidance to help you, but it's really important that you think through that. Another thing is, in terms of incomplete information and lack of specificity, sometimes people say, well, I don't want my child to inherit from me. So because they know they don't want their child to inherit, take the same situation. Mom has 3 kids and she only wants 2 to inherit, but not the 3rd. The law requires that you name all 3 children, even the one you do not want to inherit from you. Because what happens is if you fail to name that 3rd one and you say, I'm not going to name them because I don't want them to get anything. If you fail to name that 3rd child, then they will get 1/3 of your estate, because the law has an interesting concept that suggests that you forgot about your child. And so if you don't name your child, the law says, oh, must have forgot about the child, therefore they inherit 1/3, when really that's not what you wanted at all. So make sure, especially if you are disinheriting anyone who is your child, you need to name that child. Now, do you have to name other people you don't want to inherit from you? No. The only people that you must name in your will are your spouse and your kids. That way, those are the people who you must name. And so your spouse, your current spouse, and all your kids must be named, even the one you don't want to inherit from you. So make sure that you do that. And please, please, please do not say my disinherited child. Let's say you do name them, and I make no provision except for $1. Please don't say that they get $1. Why? Because if you give them $1, then they have rights under your will that they would not otherwise have. And your executor of your estate actually has to give them $1 and do work that's involved with giving that, $1 to the person that you wanted to get nothing. So it is not a good idea to give anybody $1. The idea with that is if you give somebody something, then they can't challenge the will. No, they can challenge the will. And you can expect that if you are disinheriting someone, online forms is probably not the way to go, because you're going to want to make sure that this your estate is not going to be litigated by anybody. So kind of getting back to who is appropriate for online estate planning documents, not if you're disinheriting somebody. Definitely see an attorney in that situation.